Mr. Harness, thank you so much for inviting me into your office for this interview. I wanted to take some time to interview you and ask you a few questions about OIG, who you are, and what the public can look forward to as another outlet or a better resource to file complaints about LMPD. But I want to start from the beginning, vaguely speaking, vaguely asked anyway, who are you?
Well, thanks for the opportunity, and I appreciate you coming to speak with us and myself today. I am Ed Harness. I grew up in Southern California, but most recently I was the executive director of the Civilian Oversight Agency in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Okay.
My contract was expiring, so I decided to look into other opportunities, and everything fell into place for me to come here and start the Office of Inspector General and be the very first Inspector General for Louisville Metro.
May 28th, 2020 is a day that I chose to step out at 6th and Jefferson and stand with everyone against the injustice that happened to Breonna Taylor. And a lot of injustices that had happened that I had known of before Breonna Taylor here in Louisville. And I didn't know then as much as I know now about Metro Council, even my own rights, if you will. And the process of starting the Civilian Review Board, there were a series of workshops happening over the months, and I had gone to, digitally anyway, because we were still heavily in COVID-19 quarantine, but learning about the Civilian Review Board, educating myself on the process, and knowing that they were waiting for an Inspector General, and as you said, and here you are. Now, that takes me to acronyms, actually, because you have Civilian Review and Accountability Board, Office of Inspector General, you have LMPD, LMDC, FBI, DOJ, FYI, LMNOP. What is the affiliation or association or even disassociation of OIG as it relates to LMPD, LMDC, FBI? Where does OIG fit in?
The OIG, the Office of Inspector General, is the professional staff that will do the work for the Civilian Review and Accountability Board.
I see.
So we have 3 investigators. We will have a data analyst by the middle of next month. We also have the Ombudsman from the Human Rights Commission or Human Relations Commission. And we also have an admin here on our staff.
I see. And how many are on your staff?
That would be a total of 7.
I see. I see. Now, I want to go into the aspect of filing a complaint. Let's say I'm out and about and something happens and I think LMPD did not handle it in a justified way. How do I go through the process of filing a complaint?
There's many outlets for you to be able to file a complaint. You can go to the Louisville Metro City site where the OIG, the Office of Inspector General, has an online complaint form.
Understood.
There are also paper forms throughout the city at city libraries, community centers, at the police divisions. They all have forms there. There's about 70 locations throughout. And fill out those forms and submit that information to us. It's important to understand that information only comes to us.
I see.
It does not go to LMPD in any way. However, bear in mind that we must conduct our investigations under the Officer's Bill of Rights, KRS 67 and KRS 15, I believe, are the numbers for those. So our staff is fully trained under those ordinances and certified. And we can take sworn complaints and non-sworn complaints and move forward with those as well.
I see.
As well as also having the ability to take anonymous complaints with our online form.
Understood. When that complaint, however, is filed, and you said it only goes to you, are you referring to OIG and CRAB? Again, when I say CRAB, I mean Civilian Review and Accountability Board, or is it just OIG?
That information comes directly to the Office of Inspector General. It does not go to the Civilian Review and Accountability Board. The OIG will then conduct a preliminary investigation and then take those findings and present them to the Civilian Review and Accountability Board to request authorization for a full investigation.
I see. So the OIG's office looks at the complaint, presents it to the Civilian Review and Accountability Board, and they vote whether or not to move forward with it.
That's correct.
I see.
The OIG cannot conduct a full investigation without the authorization of the Civilian Review and Accountability Board.
Understood. In September, early September, I sat down with a gentleman by the name of K.A. Owens. He works with, well, a few different organizations, but one of which is the Kentucky Alliance. We spoke about subpoena power. And actually, I want to pull that video up for a second and take a look at that.
For civilian review boards to be successful, they need several things. They need to do their own, to be able to do their own investigation and not just review investigations that are presented to them. And so that's what's built into this model is sort of a inspector general plus a civilian review board. And so the inspector general can hire a staff, and he or her or they can, as they say today, can do their own investigation. Now, to do an investigation, you need people to be willing to come forward and to testify or tell the story or provide information. So it's thought that to get people to in the text of the ordinance, city employees are supposed to come forward, but what if they don't? And so that's why you have something called subpoena power. Now, the way the state of Kentucky is set up, for instance, the Metro Council itself, one of its committees actually does have subpoena power, but it was given that subpoena power by the state of Kentucky. So the question is, can that committee, I believe it's the Government Oversight Committee, can the government oversight, can it share that subpoena power? And, or do we have to have a special piece of legislation to allow this new civilian review board to have subpoena power?
Tell me, what do you think about what he said there? And how do you feel about that?
Mr. Owens was correct in his analysis, and the subpoena authority is written into the ordinance, the oversight ordinance from the Civilian Review and Accountability Board. However, the Kentucky legislature has yet to grant subpoena power to the Office of Inspector General and the Civilian Review and Accountability Board. The theory of whether or not we can use the government oversight's subpoena power has yet to be tested.
I see. And you had told me before you come from Albuquerque, New Mexico, correct? Where they had subpoena power.
Right, yeah. We were able to simply amend and strengthen the subpoena power by amending the oversight ordinance and getting the approval of the local city council.
Wow. Your city council was actually helpful.
Yes. Now that was under the leverage of the Department of Justice consent decree, the DOJ, which mandated that our oversight organization have subpoena power. So they simply were complying with the federal court order.
Understood. And it warrants the question: coming here to Louisville, coming from a city that has subpoena power to a city that does not. Do you think your job and the task of the Civilian Review and Accountability Board is going to be quite difficult to really bring justice for the community members that come to file complaints?
I wouldn't say that. I think that certainly having subpoena power is a component of making sure that we have a full and fair investigation that's conducted. However, we are recognized as a government entity in the collective bargaining agreement with the local fraternal order of police. So therefore, they must comply with our investigations as a part of their employment and a condition of their employment.
I see.
So we will have their cooperation mandated.
Mr. Harness, I will say, despite that subpoena power not being here in this city for that Civilian Review Accountability Board and OIG, I'm very thankful to hear that of what you said. And I assume the civilians will too, as it relates to those who will be filing complaints, for I assume there will be complaints. Moving forward to the next question is, I simply want to ask you, speaking more to the public, because that's what this interview is for than anything, is there anything that you want to say to them?
I think the most important aspect is that you realize that you have another outlet now. You do not need to go back to the police department to file a complaint about their actions. And then also be fully aware that we're not going to be successful without the public's cooperation and input and their information as well. So it will be a collaborative effort. We will welcome any and all information that you have for us as we move forward and as we conduct these investigations.
Mr. Harness, thank you so much. And again, welcome to Louisville, Kentucky. And I can say, as someone who was watching the process from those Civilian Review Board workshops to this point, I'm happy to see that the OIG's office is here.
Thanks. We're happy to be here and we're happy to get to work.